mailbag episode on the Just Baseball Show. It is Wednesday, June 15th. That's Aram Lane, and I'm Peter Apple. Aram, to start off the podcast, because we have plenty of questions to answer that were asked on our Twitter at JustBBMedia, as well as on our Instagram at Just Baseball Show. But we have to start with the tweet that made me laugh right before pre-recording that just came out. The Diamondbacks, and this is by at J Cuda, spelled C-U-D-A. The tweet is, the Diamondbacks sent Dallas Keuchel to the Arizona Complex League. And for those who are unaware, Dallas Keuchel was released by the White Sox after being terrible and is now on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks sent him to the Arizona Complex League. And the Arizona Complex League, according to Jay Kuda, is the lowest rung ladder of North American minor league baseball, even below low A. He is 0-1 with a 7.20 ERA. Dallas Keuchel, wherever there's a mound he's throwing and whenever there's a box to hit against him, batters are doing just fine.
You know what's crazy? He was playing with Jordan Lawler in that game, and Lawler was on a rehab game, I think. Look, I don't want to pile on too much, but it was just funny because when you were reading me that tweet, I'm like, where's he going with this? Like, of course, he's doing a rehab assignment. They're going to build him back up. And then it's like, no, he's 0-1 in that, pitching against 18-year-olds with a 7.20 ERA. That's tough. That's tough. And I mean, the D-backs, look, they're actually like sneaky decent this year. So I don't know how long it's going to last. I was going to say, screw it, just throw Keuchel in there, but they've actually been all right. But yeah, that is an insane stat. And hopefully for Keuchel's sake, he can get things going. But he got his bag from the White Sox, as I know Jack can attest to. He got his bag from the Chicago White Sox.
And just some little short news, little tidbits before we get into the questions. Javier Baez currently is 1 for his last 39 at bats. Ooh. Actually, he's 1 for his last 40. He's 1 for 39 in his last 40 at bats. Eric Hosmer is slashing about 190, 240, 220 in his last 21 games. So that's not very good. And some injuries that we have to address. Hyun-Jin Ryu, unfortunately, is looking like he might go down for the entire year with Tommy John surgery, which is really, really unfortunate. Yeah. And Liam Hendriks of the Chicago White Sox also just went down with an injury. He's not supposed to be out for a crazy long time, but the closer of the White Sox will not be closing games for them as one of the best closers in baseball.
Dude, that team is snake bitten right now, the White Sox. It's really tough. And Ryu, I mean, it seemed like, I know age was catching up to him, but it seemed like he just was something wasn't right over the last year or so. So hopefully this surgery can give him like a second leg here in the back leg of his career, and hopefully he'll get it going. But let's see what the Blue Jays do now. Maybe the Jays feel a little bit more urgency to go get an arm and throw somebody into that rotation. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. And hopefully, of course, Liam Hendriks can come back soon, because the White Sox are just struggling to keep bodies on the field right now. It's pretty crazy what we're seeing over there. And quickly, the Twins are separating themselves a little bit more. I think coming into today, 6 games apart as we're recording this for the division. That can get to 10 real quick and start ballooning from there. And the Twins are playing good ball, which I know we have a question about them, and we will get more into the Twins in a second.
And not only the Twins playing good ball, they get back Joe Ryan today. So we're recording on Tuesday to be released on Wednesday. Joe Ryan pitches today, and Sonny Gray is due to be back as well. So as the Twins get healthier, the White Sox do not, as TA7, of course, is still on the IL as well. Are there any news and notes maybe from the minor leagues? Because in college baseball, of course, now we have our 8 teams set for Omaha, but I want to talk about college baseball, of course, because it's the biggest time of the year. But on tomorrow's Just Baseball Show, it'll be Jack and I interviewing our college baseball guy, Pete Flaherty. So the entire episode will be college baseball. Yeah. So for now, we're just going to focus on MLB and minor leagues. And then tomorrow will be all college baseball. So any news and notes in the minor leagues? Is anything popping? What's going on right now?
Well, TA's on his rehab assignment. So that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
I think he'll hopefully be back. I think he's got some other things going on off the field that he's got to tend to, allegedly. Of course, Twitter is a great place to get your information, but I did see some interesting things there on Twitter. You can search that up yourself. And Eduardo Rodriguez also in a similar conundrum, I think. So very interesting to see how those things get aired out publicly. I saw John Heyman tweet out an article with Erod and his wife. And I was like, that was the picture. And it was like Erod, on the restricted list for, marital issues or whatever it was. And I was like, dude, Like, let's talk about baseball. Like, we don't know what's going on there. But just, I guess we're turning into the tabloids a little bit on the baseball side. But I wanted to talk just quickly about Matt Gorski, who continues to just go nuclear with the Pirates. And I know you're asking a little bit about like the minor league sphere. They keep getting guys that are just coming up and raking. We know about Jack Sawinski, Cannon Smith and Jigma pinch hit in the ninth today and put a good swing on a ball for a double in his first career big league hit for the Pirates. And now they've got this dude, Matt Gorski, who has 19 home runs between high A and double A in just 53 games and is just flat out mashing to about a 160 WRC plus. Guy was a second round pick in 2019. He's a masher. Look out for Matt Gorski, one of the guys that are kind of trending in the minor leagues right now.
It's phenomenal. And just like as the minor leagues as a whole, right? You've talked about this, I think, briefly at points, but the pitch clock, because I saw Heyman talk about it today. And I thought to myself, well, the person who has been hyping it up the most that I've heard, well, maybe because you're the co-host of the Just Baseball show, that would make
you got to hear me a lot.
But I hear you talk about the pitch clock a lot. So just tell me what you've seen from being in these ballparks and now understanding why you love it so much.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad to see that the reporting to the big leagues is positive overall. Like, I didn't know if they're going to say there's too many violations, players aren't going to be able to adjust to it, blah, blah, blah. And as Heyman noted, there's only about 0.6 violations per game, which means, there's only one violation every 2 games roughly. And a violation
by violation.
Yeah. So it would be like if the pitcher takes too long, there will be a ball awarded, or if the hitter takes too long, there'll be a strike awarded. That's only happening once every 2 games, but the game duration is down almost 25 to 30 minutes. And I mean, we're seeing it big time. And I would say it's the time between pitches, especially with the relievers, where you're seeing the big difference. And I just love that because I think there's nothing that takes the air out of a game than, ball 2, the reliever takes a big lap around the mound, takes off his hat, wipes his sweat off, grabs the rosin bag, throws another ball, and then does the whole thing again. And then the catcher comes out. Like, all of those things, just they take so much air out of the game. And I think fans are just more engaged. There's less time between pitches. There's more action. It's go, go, go. And if you think about football, right? Football in terms of action is kind of slow if you think about it, because you got the huddle and then you got the play, but there's a clock that enforces that every huddle isn't longer than the other. And I think that's what baseball needs. And I was very hesitant at first, but I know that that people are going to start to warm up to the idea that how long it's going to take between pitches, and you don't have to worry about human rain delays on the mound, because we've seen them. I mean, I literally watched Jerry's Familia tie his shoes 3 times in 1 inning. I don't want to watch that ever again. But that should be a penalty at that point. Double knot it, or it's a ball. Like, figure it out.
Double knot it, or it's a ball. And you can trust Aram, because if for anyone watching on YouTube, he's wearing a Fire Pensacola blue Wahoo t-shirt. I bet about 7 people in the world have that exact t-shirt. Aram's one of them.
I think it was on clearance for like $11.99.
That's kind of a decent amount of money for that t-shirt, but it is kind of fire. It is kind of fire. Let's get into the questions, unless we have any more news and notes from around the league. But we'll be updating you guys, of course, throughout the week on the Just Baseball show. Thank you all again for listening and for asking all of these questions. Again, on our Twitter, we post a mailbag graphic. Ask any question you want, and we will answer it to feature you on this episode of the Just Baseball show. We do this every 2 weeks. So make sure you're following our Twitter at JustBBmedia to stay up to date on these mailbags. So Aram, the first question is a good one. What are your thoughts on the Guardians, and what should they do for the remainder of the year? Should they go for it and add another bat/arm? Should they retool and keep most of their core, or just a full-blown rebuild? And we've been on very similar pages with the Guardians of the fact that what they do versus what they should do are different things.
Yeah.
What they should do in our eyes is they should add. They have all the makings of a playoff team in a division that's currently up for grabs right now. You have the Minnesota Twins, who are good, but we do know that the Twins will have their lulls. And then when we look at the Dylan Bundys of the world, that this Twins rotation isn't bulletproof. We know the bullpen certainly isn't as well. And then the bottom of the Twins lineup isn't great. You look at the White Sox, they're just dealing with injury after injury after injury. And it's not the Royals and the Tigers year. The Guardians are not out of it. I still think that they should go add a bat, but they have a lot of young guys in the outfield. Just don't trade away, like Jose Ramirez, don't trade him away. Don't blow it up. Do not completely rebuild.
No.
I can understand a retool because that's most likely what they're going to do. So I know you're probably on the same side of they should buy, but they're probably going to retool. Am I off there?
So, I think the biggest thing is this, right? You have a top 5 player in baseball locked up for cheap now for the foreseeable future, right? He's under control until 2028 or 2029, that is. And I mean, you will be able to get him now at 22 million this year, 14 million next year, and then 17 million a year after that. I know the Guardians are not big spenders, but come on, when you're getting that kind of value, I think you got to start looking to go for it. And I'm not saying they need to push all the chips forward. So I think maybe retool or like a soft launch in terms of going forward. It's probably the way the Guardians should do it. But I mean, we've talked about this, right? This is a good team that is not that far away from being very good. And I know you talked about it on the podcast when you guys were talking All-Stars about how Andres Jimenez, should be in that conversation as an All-Star. Absolutely. And now that guy's taking the next step. He is a great player. You have Ramirez. You have some other pieces. The rotation is phenomenal. Shane Bieber finally healthy. Tristan McKenzie has been, a guy looking like he's taken that next step. Cal Quantrill has been Mr. Consistent, as you know. Like, this is a good rotation. And then Clase, 24 years old, one of the best closers in the game. Eli Morgan, who we used to jokingly fade, moves to the bullpen. He's lights out.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing, and their system is insane. Like, they could make a couple of trades and not really feel it and still have an elite system. And it's a million middle infielders, some pitchers that they may call up that'll bolster their rotation. Go get an outfield bat, please. Please go get an outfield bat with some control, and this team might look a lot different. I ask you, I'll turn it back on you. How far is this team away from being, I'm not saying World Series contender, but like a legitimate playoff threat? I think they're very close. What do they like? How much more do they need? 1 player, 2 players, 1 great player, 2 good players?
So I think they need 2 really good bats.
Yeah.
And then they're better than the Brewers.
Yes.
No,
yes.
that's how I think in my head, that they're not that far off from the Milwaukee Brewers, who are one of the best teams in the Central and probably could win their division. I mean, we will see. We have another question about the Cardinals and the Brewers, so we will answer that at a later time. But the Guardians are 2 big bats away from being legit. Josh Naylor rakes. I mean, this dude rakes.
Especially after that injury. That was an ugly injury. And nice to see him get going again.
And he's looked great. So it's not like they need to add a Josh Bell or anything like that. But what's stopping them, Aram, from going to the Washington Nationals and saying, we'll take Nelson Cruz for cheap?
Yeah, why not?
And then go to the Cubs and say, what will it take for Wilson Contreras? So now you had Wilson Contreras a catcher. You had Nelson Cruz in a DH spot. You have Jose Ramirez. You have Josh Naylor. You have Steven Kwan. You have Ahmed Rosario. You have Miles Straw. Now you have this rotation. Now you have a bullpen. That's a really fucking good team, and just as good as the White Sox or the Twins are, in my opinion. I think they're 2 big bats from being a legitimate contender. What do you think about that plan?
Yeah. So do you think Franmil Reyes is kind of cooked for this year?
What do you think?
I'm nervous.
Maybe Nelson Cruz is the wrong. I'm just thinking about big bats that will be available at the deadline. But you're right, Franmil. They do have Franmil, but he can't hit anything. So
what about like an Ian Happ who comes with a year of control? Get Ian Happ, switch hitter, throw him in the outfield. Now, I mean, that's a huge bump offensively. If you want to like try to shift it this year and say, hey, we want to try and make a run at the playoffs this year. If Wilson Contreras can be acquired for cheap, I think, then they do it, but
not cheap, but
they need control. I feel like any move they're going to make is going to be for a guy with at least a year or 2 of control. And that's the thing. So I'm looking at like an Ian Happ or, even a Benintendi, I don't think, because he doesn't really come with the control. I would love to see them go get somebody with some control. But could you imagine if they just decided to make a real splash and go get an Austin Hayes or something like that with several years of control, kind of solidify that outfield for the next couple of years? They have guys coming up through the pipeline, but get that sure thing for now. I would love to see them go get an Ian Happ or an Austin Hayes. And their system, they could easily do that. and still have one of the best systems, if not a top 3 system in baseball.
I totally get what you're saying with the control, and that's the smarter move for the Guardians long term. I was just more thinking in the realm of, if you want to go for it this year and you don't want to give up those big time prospects, guys like that you could get and immediately bolster the offense and make them that much better. That's the only reason I was mentioning the Nelson Cruzes and the Wilson Contrerases of the world. The fact that you don't have to dive deep into your farm system. Keep the Faleras of the world, all these guys, keep them. You don't have to give them up for Wilson Contreras or Nelson Cruz. That was my thinking there.
Yeah. And also, like, to that point, you're 3.5 games out of the division. If you don't want to give up any major prospects, even for guys with control, then go out and make that move that helps you a little bit this year, like a Nelson Cruz, especially if Franmil continues to struggle, and throw him into the fold there. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's no big deal. You're not going to give up much for him. But you're at least bolstering a lineup that could really use help. This team's 2 games above 500. And again, you have J-Ram playing the way he is. The Brewers don't even have someone like that offensively. And I think that the Guardians pitching is not that far off from getting to, top tier 1 in the game. I really think they're pretty close to that, especially if McKenzie continues on the trend he's on and some of these prospects get up there who I think could come up and help them pretty soon.
When you have one of the best bullpens combined with one of the better starting pitching, trios, I guess, in baseball, go for it. Like, now is the time. You just have to add a big bat and you're right in it. So to conclude on the Guardians, what we think they'll do is most likely retool.
Just cautiously add
status quo. But what we think they should do is they should go for it because they have all the pieces to do so. Moving on to question number 2. Cardinals record prediction, and will they win the division? I reckon they will win the league pennant. They're playing well right now, but half the league seems to be second half players. Asked by Eduardo54978750 on Twitter. Also, the last question was asked by David D. Olivo3 on Twitter. Just don't want to make sure we're shouting out everybody's name. Thank you again for following us on Twitter. Aram, the Cardinals are getting healthier. Jack Flaherty will make his debut today. Now that you're listening to this podcast, Miles Michaelis is still doing well. Adam Wainwright is still doing well. Andre Palante has had a couple of starts in the rotation. I like what I've seen from him.
Yeah, he looked good.
We haven't seen much from Steven Matz this year, and I don't know how the Jordan Hicks experiment is exactly going. I know he's also dealing with something right now as well. We know that the Cardinals need starting pitchers. We know that. But they've been able to piece it together quite nicely now with Jack Flaherty. Tyler O'Neill is now back in the lineup. This Cardinals team does look really good. What's your outlook on them right now?
Dude, I still like them. I still really think this team looks like a pretty darn close to complete team with a pitcher or 2 added to the fold here. And that's the thing. And you guys mentioned it. I think it was you and Jack on the episode where you're saying, like, I hope, Miles Michaelis doesn't make them think they're okay to not add an arm. To kind of revisit that point, I hope that the return of Jack Flaherty doesn't make them think that they're okay to not add an arm. Like, because of the injuries we've seen to a lot of different guys throughout their rotation, I don't think you can count on everybody staying healthy. Go get another pitcher and separate yourselves from the Brewers, because as we've seen, the Brewers are vulnerable. I think they're going to bounce back because pitching usually will keep you afloat, but the rest of the division is terrible. The Pirates are in 3rd place. That tells you everything you need to know about that division right now. And, I don't think that division is going to send a wild card team in there. So it's probably going to be a battle between those 2 teams, the Brewers and the Cardinals, to win the division. Right now is your opportunity to start to distance yourself as the Brewers scuffle. Go get a pitcher. And we talked about it in the trade episode. That's really the only thing for me. I want to see them just get a pitcher. With the way Ryan Helsley's pitching, with the way that Genesis Cabrera has looked, and even Giovanni Gallegos in spots, I think the bullpen is fine. It's just the rotation. I need to see one more good arm in there. But you mentioned the lineup, and Tyler O'Neill, just having watched the last handful of games that he's been in, he looks like he's starting to come back. I'm starting to see life out of Tyler O'Neill. He seems to be comfortable in the box again. He seems to be starting to get it going again there. I'm seeing signs of life of Dylan Carlson. We know what Paul Goldschmidt's doing. He does not stop hitting. Nolan Arenado will continue to be Nolan Arenado. So as these other guys get going, This offense is, I'll take it with just about any in baseball, and the bench is great as well. I mean, they can mix and match with the best of them. Just get one more pitcher. And I think this team can sneak in there and be one of those teams that puts it together in the postseason with the veteran experience they have and make a run. I think they have an outside shot at making a run at the pennant.
And just adding on to like even the youth that this team has showed too, with Brendan Donovan, who is a legit candidate for NL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
He really is. I mean, he's been phenomenal, but then they have another candidate for NL Rookie of the Year, Nolan Gorman. These guys across the diamond, I mean, even guys we haven't mentioned like Harrison Bader, Tommy Edman, these guys have been phenomenal. The whole team has been good, but what's going to stop them? It's going to be the starting rotation. It will. Jack Flaherty is coming back, and we're going to love to see what we see. And I'm a bigger Jack Flaherty believer than I think a lot of people are, but still Jack Flaherty has not proved that he can consistently stay healthy. He helps you, but he's not going to put you that much more over the top. Right now, the Cardinals sit at 36-27 with a 49 run differential. Like, to give you an example of where that plus 49 run differential sits, like the Astros have a plus 41 run differential. The Braves are at plus 32. Who's another team? Like the Toronto Blue Jays are at plus 44. So, and the Padres are at plus 51. So they're right in that range. They're 36-27. Do you think they win 92 games? Like if I gave you an over under right at 92 and a half, taking the over or the under?
92. I'm taking the over. I do think they're going to just keep rolling. I really like what I'm seeing from them. And they also have other options in the minors too, either to trade or to call up to the big leagues, guys that are hitting well in AAA. I am worried about, we talked about it before we recorded, the Dakota Hudson regression. How are you going to hedge that regression? Go get an arm. If Steven Matz can come back and give you anything, that obviously helps. Matthew Liberatore looked a lot better yesterday as we're recording this in the last outing. So if he can start to get better, he's not going to get worse. So I think
it was against the Pirates, though.
It was against the Pirates. It was against the Pirates. But as he gets more acclimated as the year goes on, he could end up getting better and better for you. And again, the offense, I think, is going to keep improving because outside of Paul Goldschmidt, no one's playing out of their minds offensively. I think it's going to continue to get better in that regard, too. I mean, we saw what Tyler O'Neill is capable of and starting to show flashes of that. So I think this team can win 90 plus, easily win 92. And I hope that they kind of push all the chips forward here.
I would say slightly over as well. And Cardinals fans, the reason why they're probably thinking, well, they just both went over 92, but they keep harping on the idea that we need a starter. Like, why? If we're this good, we're holding you to a different standard, Cardinals fans, and I hope you appreciate it. Yeah. We're trying to get you to a World Series. And a World Series has to have a Frankie Montas in it, has to have possibly a Luis Castillo in it, has to have one of these high-end starters to back up Wainwright, to back up Michaelis, because you're going to be facing these rotations like the Mets will when you face them in the playoffs, when you got DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, and even Tyler McGill. Like, you're going to have to face those teams with the Dodgers and Buehler and Arias. And I mean, these are going to be tough rotations that you've got to get through. And when you have the firepower in your rotation and match up, because your offense can run with anybody, you can win the National League and possibly win the World Series with a high-end starting pitcher added to your roster.
Yeah. I mean, Dakota Hudson versus Chris Bassett. And I know Hudson's been good, but and I know Bassett's been bad, but give me Chris Bassett every day of the week.
Bassett. And unfortunately, Jacob DeGrom over Wainwright, Scherzer over whoever their two is.
Miles Michaelis.
They're going to be favored in quotes every game. And it's going to be up to the Cardinals to win as underdogs in basically every game, unless they add a big time starter to lengthen that rotation. Let's move on to the third question. It's another good one. Then after the third, let's talk about our friends at Loop. Third question, is Luis Arraez an all-star? And can the Twins actually compete with the best teams? So we've talked about this a little bit about the Twins and how we think they can compete, but I'm just going to answer straight up for Luis Arraez. Of course, dude's leading the league in batting average at 362. He is one of the most consistent hitters now in baseball. He's not Tony Gwynn. Of course, he's not Tony Gwynn, but he's playing like Tony Gwynn, like Tony Gwynn light, in the sense of he's hitting 360. He's not going to hit for a ton of power, but every single day he's going 2 for 4, it seems like. Luis Arraez definitely should be an all-star. And right now, I know Buxton is standing on his head, and when he's seeing the ball, say goodnight because it's an auto home run every game. But over this entire season, Luis Arraez has been the best hitter on the Twins, which features Carlos Correa, Jorge Polanco, and Byron Buxton. Like, he's been the best hitter on the team this year.
I mean, he's getting on base at a 444 clip. It's just insane. And the thing is, he's not only hitting the best he's ever hit in terms of batting average. The BABIP's not really that insane, so you can't really point towards luck. He's walking more than he ever has walked in his career. He's striking out the least pretty much since his rookie season, which was a 92-game sample size. When you have 26 walks against 18 strikeouts in today's major leagues, you are a freak. And he's doing that now in 216 plate appearances. So this is a guy that has really just gone full throwback style and is just been phenomenal. But not only that, he's hitting the ball harder than he ever has. And that's why we're seeing a lot more of these singles turn into doubles, maybe a lot more of these ground outs get through for base hits. And that's why we're talking about a dude that has kind of taken his game to the next level. Max exit velo, 3 miles per hour higher than it's ever been. Average exit velo up 1 mile per hour as well. So he's hitting the ball more frequently and hitting the ball harder while making better swing decisions. I would bet a lot of money on that guy having a better year than he's ever had before. And that's exactly what's happening.
That's exactly what's happening. And just moving on to the Twins portion of this, like we said at the beginning, they're getting back Joe Ryan, which is huge for them because he was the front runner for the American League Rookie of the Year before Jeremy Pena started standing on his head and Joe Ryan got hurt. And then they're going to get back Sonny Gray as well. My thing is with the Twins, and they've had to piece together some starts with, Cole Sands or, a couple of guys here and there, but Devin Smeltzer has been fantastic for them. That's a guy who at least they can lean on right now. But then again, how much longer is that going to last? I am always afraid of this Twins rotation of what we're going to get in and day out. But the offense is humming. But then again, I also think to the, with Chris Paddock now being out for the year for them, who's a big loss for them, the bullpen, trading away Rogers to San Diego for Chris Paddock, and now Chris Paddock goes down. How will the bullpen continue to last throughout the season along with the starting rotation? That's the question, but they can address those needs at the deadline. The Orioles have plenty of relievers available. I mean, there's teams with plenty of relievers available. So the Twins can manage this and they don't have to sell the farm. Just go get a solid arm, kind of like a Chris Paddock, and then add some bullpen pieces. And this team is ready for a playoff run.
And you know what the craziest thing is, Peter, about all that is you talk about the rotation, and even with the rotation healthy, we're like, oh, they could use another arm. Like you mentioned, the rotation's been decimated. I mean, Sonny Gray has been hurt what it seems like almost the entire year. Joe Ryan is just making his return. Bailey Ober has been hurt as well. And like we always joke about how tall he is, but you know what? He's a guaranteed at least big league arm every fifth day, which
he's a quality
they didn't
start
even have.
guy.
Yeah, which they didn't have for a while.
He's
they
like
didn't even have that. Yeah. I'll take that. Like they were running out Devin Smeltzer, who's been great, but like they didn't know what they were going to get from all of these guys. The bullpen makes me a little bit more nervous. I mean, we've seen Duran, and he's been great. Emilio Pagan's been good in spots, but some of the advanced numbers would point towards, maybe some regression. But again, relievers, sometimes they can outperform that for a whole year. I need to see some arms in there too, but also the offense has been banged up, Jack. I mean, we talk about Byron Buxton's like load management, which I'm fully behind, but at the same time, that's tough. Carlos Correa has been hurt like the whole year, but all of a sudden is hitting 302, 373, 459. I mean, they have been banged up from top to bottom and have still been able to stay afloat. We'll see what they get from Alex Kirilloff. We'll see what they get from some of these other dudes, but Trevor Warnick has filled in and been great. And I think that is a very big development. Jose Miranda starting to heat up and figure it out at the big league level. That's a very big development. And I mean, this is a very deep team bats wise. Go get another arm and they can go make that trade. They can do something. I'm excited to see what they're going to do because I think they're going to push the chips forward because they got to convince Carlos Correa to stick around. And I think they've got a good chance in doing so if they can, take the division this year and show that they're serious about winning. I think they've shown that. But let's kind of remind Carlos Correa how serious Minnesota is about winning and how this franchise is a little different.
They should go get Felix Bautista from the Orioles so they can have Yohan Duran and Felix Bautista just throwing 100-mile-an-hour bowling balls at people. Like just having those two back there, that's a scary back end. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say, Arm. So let's talk about our friends.
And they do it pretty easily.
and they do it pretty damn easily. Let's talk about our friends at Loop. The Loop app has been phenomenal. I have been having fun. I have about 7 different packages here that I've been getting on Loop because I can't stop buying packs because it's just that much fun. If you use the link in our episode description, download the Loop app, you get a free $20. Free $20. Why wouldn't you download it? It's in our episode description. It also helps us out immensely. And if you are a baseball card fan, the guys at Wild Cards Trading who are a part of us, that's Kendall and T, they work with us and all of our baseball cards. They're writing full articles on justbaseball.com that you should check out. They do live streams. Aram has done live streams with Marlins prospects. Even Jazz Chisholm was in the stream as well. So if you want to be up to date on live streams as well as giveaways on the Loop app, that's just what we added to the Loop app. If you download it, use our $20, you can buy cards all you can, and you get a free $20 to do so. Seems like an absolute no-brainer. And Loop has had some crazy pulls lately too. Seems like they're always pulling crazy cards worth thousands and thousands of dollars on them.
Just not either of us are pulling them right now. But
speak for yourself. I got a Bowman first Samad Taylor here.
He's actually been good, but you had the Dustin Harris auto, which was pretty lit.
True. That was fine.
And I have my Oscar Colas, which was also pretty solid. But also something to look out for with your $20 credit to use.
This guy needs to figure it out.
Jason Dominguez is the 2022 Top Series 2 is out now. And your $20 credit could actually buy you, depending on how certain sellers will package it, multiple packs of 2022 Top Series 2, which is great because you can get all of the rookie cards from like Bobby Witt to Julio Rodriguez to those guys. And I know some people have been already been pulling some very rare cards because they have short print, which is basically like limited release versions of those rookie cards. And I know some people have already pulled on Loop. Check those out because Top Series 2 is awesome. Your credit can go straight to that, and every seller should be equipped with Top Series 2 product. And I'm a big fan of the Topps product over the last couple of years. And Series 2 is a loaded rookie list to check out. And also they should have some Father's Day deals and Father's Day's giveaways as well. But keep looking out for some of the pulls on Top Series 2, and I would use your $20 credit there because there's going to be some expensive J-Rod cards pulled, some expensive Bobby Witt cards pulled, and also we're going to be doing some more streams on there moving forward, so looking forward to doing that as well. But our folks at Wild Cards Trading will be live multiple days a week. I believe on Friday. They'll be live doing some breaks on there, and we'll be hanging out with you guys as well. Definitely check out the link in the description. If you already have the app, then you already know what to look for. But Top Series 2 should be, in a lot of stores now already. So check that out.
Check that out in our episode description. You'll see that link there. Join us on the Loop app. Get a free $20. Why wouldn't you do it? Next question, and question number 4 is a good one. What is one move that will shake up the league at the deadline? Now, this is a very tough question because we just did a mock trades article. All right, we just did you wrote a mock trades article. We did a mock trades podcast. So let's try and be different. Let's try and figure out what a move that could be made at the deadline, like a crazy blockbuster. And we're speculating on this one because this is something that has maybe a 10 to 15% chance of happening because we laid out 9 different trades that we think have a good shot of happening. So if you're interested in seeing more about trades, go check out justbaseball.com or listen to one of our previous episodes. It was like 3 or 4 episodes ago when you're scrolling. Put your crazy hat on. Put your crazy hat on. It's
always on.
It's always on. I'm just trying to rack my brain right now of just like what could potentially break the league in terms of one of those moves that you think to yourself, wow, I did not see that coming. And I have one that makes no sense. I have one that makes no sense, but it's something that I've been thinking about for the past couple of weeks. I see where the Mariners are. And I think to myself, all right, so most of their young guys, like the Kirbys, Kirby has already been looking good, but there's still a couple years away from those guys really making. Julio Rodriguez, Noel V. Marte, Matt Brash, like they're on the cusp, but they're not truly there yet. And this is, again, I'm putting my crazy hat on. I don't think this is actually going to happen. But I was thinking, what if the Mariners blow it up? Not blow it up, but maybe, see if people want Jesse Winker. See if people want some of their arms, like maybe a Chris Flex and Marco Gonzalez. Guys like that. That's just Mitch Haniger. Guys like that. A team that just doesn't seem to be it this year. And I hate to say this because I do think that the Mariners in a couple of years will be good. And I don't truly think that they're going to do it. It was just a thought exercise to me thinking, all right, well, we know their GM will do a bunch. Like, he will make some of these types of moves. Do you think there's any shot the Mariners just blow it up?
I think so blow it up is like I think people might think that means trade everybody.
Yeah, which is not what I mean.
Everybody under age 26 is staying, right?
Yes.
I could definitely see them. That's like a retool, right? Like, I could see them trading Mitch Haniger, trading some of these other guys, and just sort of adjusting their timeline a little bit. I think after the way they finished last year, a lot of people in the organization, and us included, like, thought, hey, this team is on the cusp. And then they got to this year and they realized, hey, some of our guys are a little bit younger and not quite ready to help us yet, like Matt Brash and some of the other dudes that we've talked about. Even a Julio Rodriguez, who has been phenomenal this year, now over the last month, started slow. And like, is that a guy that you can lean on day in and day out, lean on into the postseason?
He's their three hitter. He's a rookie.
Yeah,
he's going to go through these lulls.
He's 21.
We were talking about Michael Harris on Not Gambling Advice about a fantasy impact. Like, should you be running to go pick up Michael Harris? And I said to Cole, because he pitched it and it was a great pitch because Michael Harris is great. But I was like, as a 21-year-old in Michael Harris, don't you think he's going to go through an adjustment period where pitchers then, all right, this is what he can hit, this is what he can't, let's pitch him differently, see what he can do. That's going to happen to Julio Rodriguez again. Like, it's going to happen to these guys. And when Ty France is like a Hall of Famer, basically.
He's the best.
But he is like so fantastic. But outside of that, like, Adam Frazier is not that guy. Like, they just don't have that much offense right now.
Yeah.
Is Julio Rodriguez like the three hitter who's going to take you to the promised land this year? I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, like, I love J-Rod, and I think he's one of the best, brightest young players in the game. But if that's the guy that's like the catalyst of your offense, you're leaving yourself exposed because rookies are going to go through their fits. And, right now is an up and there might be another down. We'll see. I just think the Mariners have started to realize, even on the pitching side, can you lean on George Kirby to be a guy for you all the time? Clearly, Robbie Ray is not Cy Young Robbie Ray. Like, I'm not saying give up yet, but I think we're trending towards hey, maybe it's not this year. Let's build for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And I could easily see them doing that. And all of a sudden now the trade market just got deeper because a lot of teams are going to want a healthy Mitch Haniger. A lot of teams are going to want some of these dudes that the Mariners may be okay with trading. And they've got some of the more intriguing bullpen arms too, that they could part with.
And remember, this is just speculation. Like, I don't know if the Mariners are actually going to do this because they most likely won't. But don't you think Jerry DiPoto's analytics ass is just like kicking himself for the Robbie Ray thing? Like,
oh, he
like,
has
I
to
knew
be.
it. I knew I shouldn't have done it. It didn't match up with the numbers. And you like feel people, you eye test people, you convinced me. Like, I feel like that I feel like he's yelling at all the people who are like, trust us, like, he's got it. It's like, no, DiPoto's like, I'm never not looking at the spreadsheet ever again.
I was thinking about that because I was like, I wonder what made him decide to overlook all of the numbers.
Didn't seem like a very Jerry DiPoto type move.
No, I think they're like, dude, he won the Cy Young. Just add the Cy Young winner, and he's like, you know what,
like Dabrowski.
You know what, like, he did win the Cy Young. I'll add him. And yikes. But I am thinking about a move, and I want to go super surprising on multiple fronts because it's a guy that, doesn't necessarily need to be traded, but I think probably could be, and also would require a haul, but also would change things drastically for a guy. If we're talking about executives who have behavioral patterns, AJ Preller is not one to sit still very often. And here they are, tied for first in the NL West with the Dodgers, who just lost Walker Buehler, perhaps for the majority of the season. And all of a sudden now the Padres are going to get, Fernando Tatis back, hopefully sooner rather than later. I know some of the x-rays have been a little bit, I wouldn't say discouraging, but not as encouraging as they hoped. Regardless, he's going to come back. He's going to live. He's going to be able to help them. What if they went out and put all the chips forward and went out and got Sean Murphy? And just now, you're talking about a team that's a little bit financially strapped for the next couple of years with commitments, controllable young catcher who can swing it, who can defend, and isn't even 28 yet. Give up a fat haul. I'm okay with it. Depending on what the haul is, and go get Sean Murphy. That would take the Padres to the next level. And this team would be good and have that young core. Now you're adding a catcher into the core for the foreseeable future. Maybe a 3-team trade. You find another suitor for Camposano and you could pull that thing off. If not, I think Wilson Contreras to the Padres could even really change the baseball landscape big time.
See, I love this deal. I love that you're putting that on the table because I agree with you. But you were the one who told me Camposano is that guy. So I'm like, why should they go get a catcher if they have Camposano?
I like him, but for whatever reason, I don't know if the Padres like him. I don't know. I like Camposano. I really do. But it's kind of on the same point of the Padres trying to win now. And we know a rookie catcher is probably not someone you can lean on this year. Like, go get someone that's been around for a little bit, still young, still controllable. And now you don't really have to worry about the catching situation. Austin Nola has not been healthy, continues to just, be somewhat of a disappointing trade for them. Put the chips forward here and go get Sean Murphy. And I like Camposano, but I don't know if San Diego's the place for him. And I just don't know if there's something there.
Could use a reset. What it is. Could use a reset. Absolutely. Next question is another good one, except I already have the answer and it's no, but we'll ask it anyway. Is this the year that Edwin Diaz becomes a top 3 closer? And I know it was kind of slightly disrespectful there because Edwin Diaz does have a 2.13 ERA. He has 48 strikeouts in 25 innings, and he has 12 saves. The reason I say no is just off the top of my head, I can think of 3 right now. And without looking at anything, just off the top of my head, who I think I would rather have. I'd rather have Josh Hader. I'd rather have Liam Hendricks. I'd rather have Devin Williams. Just off the top of my head. I'd rather have Clay Holmes. I'd rather have Ryan Helsley. I continue to go down, and these are just off the top of my head. Like, you could probably pull up like AJ Minter of the Braves. I think I'd rather have him. I'm serious. I know what Edwin Diaz does. I know about Edwin Diaz. We've seen Edwin Diaz before. It has nothing to do with the stuff. He is disgusting. Has always been disgusting. You can't throw 99 miles an hour with a 95 mile an hour sinker that he barely throws. I actually threw it. He threw it one time this year against a lefty. It was collected 95.2. He's fastball slider, but he's got a 91 mile an hour slider and a 99 mile an hour fastball. He's gross. Nobody's debating that. But top 3, I don't know, because he tends to leave a ball over the middle and he can be a blown save king. But he can also be very good, and he's still a good reliever. I feel like my analysis of him has been slightly disrespectful, but I guess when we're comparing him to the top 3, that's when I'm going to get a little bit disrespectful because I don't even think he's top 5.
See, I think this is the best version of Edwin Diaz we've seen. And
I agree.
And it's just, is it sustainable? Top 3, probably not. I'm going to lean on, like you said, the pedigree of Hendricks. I think obviously, there's no doubting what that guy in Milwaukee, Josh Hader, can do. And he's unanimously, I think, the number 1 closer in baseball. But I like this question just from this standpoint. Is Edwin Diaz kind of figuring it out as a closer? Like, remember, the guy's 28 years old, just turned 28 years old. I think this is the best version of Edwin. This is a guy that's punching out 48% of batters, that the ERA is strong, the FIP is strong, like everything looks good. I do think that there's a chance that he can pitch his way into the top 3 by the end of the year. I think there's a chance. I think
there's always a chance. He's got insane stuff, like some of the best stuff in baseball. So he's of course got the chance. I just don't think he's been consistent enough for me to say, all right, in the 9th inning, I need 3 outs. And there's only 2 players I want more than Edwin Diaz. It's hard for me to fathom.
Well, you remember what he did in 2018 too. And I think that's one of the best closer seasons we've ever seen. And if he can, if he puts those numbers up again by the end of this year, Is he not top 3 closer in baseball?
If he puts up a 2018 season and he continues this the entire year and has 45 saves and has an ERA under 2 and has like 15 strikeouts per 9, yeah, you have to give it to him. Let's see him do it, because he hasn't done it since 2018. That's the point. He's been good, but not that good. Now at, how old is he? 28. He's 28. What?
That's what I just said.
That's my fault. That's my fault. I didn't know he's 28 years old.
Yeah, I was just saying that. Like, people forget he's 28. He's could kind of just figure it out in the next year or two and put it all together. We've seen the flashes of it, but I do think you're right. I don't think he's there yet. The home runs are the problem. Usually closers, don't have that susceptibility to the home run quite to the degree that Diaz does. But as you mentioned, sometimes that fastball runs right back over the middle. But he's 28 years old. And I mean, that is a very intriguing aspect of all this, is he can continue to get better. And I think we're seeing the best version we've seen of Diaz since 2018.
I think that's fair enough to say. So it's definitely a question. It's more of a question than I made it seem like. So let's move on to our 5th question. Is Dansby Swanson an all-star this year? But now what do the Braves do at second base? Unfortunately, Ozzie Albies just went down with a leg injury, and we do not know his timetable to return, at least yet. Arm, do we know his timetable?
It's broken foot. So
No.
Not anytime soon.
Not anytime
unfortunately,
soon.
Which sucks.
Let's just talk about Dansby Swanson for a second, because is Dansby Swanson an all-star? And we were talking, and, I came up with Trey Turner, Fink and Frankie Lindor. And most of our comment section was, where is Dansby Swanson? Where is Dansby Swanson? I think he could be an all-star. I really do think so. And it's because of the improvements on defense. Now he just has a very well-rounded game. Like, if I told you I got a shortstop, Arm, who's 28 years old. He was the first overall pick. He's got 8 homers, 9 steals. He's hitting almost 300 with an 800 OPS, and he's one of the best defenders in the game. You're looking at a potential superstar here. But is he a potential superstar? I don't think so. I think he's off to a really great start this season. And I think you could make the argument that he's an all-star, but it is very close. But yeah, I would say that Dansby Swanson should definitely make the all-star team. Should he be the starter? I think that's up for debate, but definitely an all-star team this year.
Yeah, I don't think he's a starter, but I think he's got to be a reserve here. And shortstop's such a loaded position, but what he's doing offensively and defensively, as you mentioned, is just so insane. And I think he's going to set. He is. I don't think he will set his career high for stolen bases. He already has 9. His career high is 10. He's on his way to getting close to last year's total of 27 homers. But what I love, of course, is how much better the defense is. And remember, this was a guy that got off to a putrid start and now has been really hot. So getting hot during the voting time and continuing that going forward here. This is a contract year for Dansby Swanson. He's going to make himself a nice little chunk of change now, I think. And it's funny because we were using him. He always talked about how your barometer for an average shortstop was Dansby Swanson. We might need a new barometer, Peter, because he's been playing phenomenally. He could be 2020 this year with Gold Glove caliber defense, which is crazy. And I mean, if he keeps this up, he's going to get a nice little payday. I think he's an all-star reserve. And I mean, that's a far cry from where he was, at the start of this year and really at any other point in his career. So really good things kind of developing here at age 28 for Dansby Swanson as well.
We could go from coast to coast on the barometer. We could go from Dansby Swanson all the way to Seattle with JP Crawford, but that's for another time because we got to develop the barometer after this season. We use the barometer in order to decipher who is the, how do we rank shortstops, but that's for another time. Let's talk about the second base position for them.
Yeah.
Because what are they going to do? I mean, I know Orlando Arcia, he's had some time. He can kind of play a bunch of different positions. And the only reason I say that is because he's been great this year. He's hitting 313, 393, 458. I don't know if they're going to use him at second base because I think they've used him at a bunch of different spots this year. I don't really know what they're going to do at second base. Do they have anybody in the farm that they could possibly call up? It may be tough right now in before the trade deadline happens.
Yeah, I think Arcia is the guy. The familiarity, The defensive ability there, like you said, he's been swinging it well. He was swinging it well in AAA last year. Has continued to look good every time we see him. So I think Arcia makes the most sense. He gives you kind of a balanced skill set. Was part of the World Series team last year. I think that's the easiest solution. And I think that's enough to keep you afloat with the way this team is playing, with the way they're hitting. I don't know if you have to go outside the org.
It's not like Albies has been great this year. I mean,
it's not like
Albies before he got injured, we're looking at a guy 244 batting average, 289 OBP with a 405 slugging. I mean, Arcia can replicate that.
Yeah, 694 OPS. Like, it's not like Albies was going scorched earth at the point of his injury. And
they didn't lose Acuna. They didn't lose Riley. They lost Ozzy Albies right now.
Yeah. And he was playing at a low level at that point. So you were hoping that Albies was going to bounce back, but this team has been red hot, kind of despite Albies' struggles and injuries. So, I think Albies can be a big part of this team, but I don't know if he's a necessity for them to succeed. But if Arcia does struggle at that point, maybe they look outside the org, but I think Arcia can hold the fort down.
Well, at least in the NL East, like, we have two teams right now that are just on hot streaks. I mean, the Braves can't lose, and the Phillies haven't really lost either since Joe Girardi left. Both these teams right now are firing, and the Mets are firing. I guess before we move on, like, give me a 30-second rant on the Marlins. Give me 30 seconds. What do you think? What do you think right now?
Oh God. They looked like they were showing signs of life. They won 5 in a row. And then in just true Marlins fashion, they wasted another Sandy Alcantara, a gem of a start. Left him out there after walking 2 guys in the 8th inning. He gets a double play, and then they take him out to bring the lefty in against Didi Gregorius. Would you rather have Steven O'Kurt left on left, or would you rather have Sandy Alcantara pitching against whoever?
Sandy.
Yeah, but no. First pitch from O'Kurt is a hanging breaking ball, base hit, ties the game. Marlins eventually lose. Like, that just kind of encapsulates all of it. But they are playing better. They're just so frustrating. Don Mattingly's not a great manager. He's not the problem, but he's not a great manager. Someone resurfaced a quote recently of Kim Ng saying that she sees the Marlins being, an offensive force in the coming years. And, that was a while ago. They're not an offensive force.
Has she said that lately? That she thinks they're
I don't think she's followed up on that one in a little bit.
I will say, though, of the 2 farthest home runs this year, Jorge Soler is at number 5 and Jesus Sanchez is at number 1. So maybe she is right.
Do they count for more?
Yes, they do. That's what you get as a Marlins fan, is that those home runs that went far, they count for double.
Consolation prizes are great.
Consolation prizes are amazing. Let's talk about this one. This one's tough because we just got more news on Fernando Tatis Jr. today. Is the Padres' solid start without Nando or Fernando Tatis Jr. sustainable? There's still no word on his MRI scan, so he may be out a bit longer. How do they prevent a catastrophic collapse like last year? What moves are realistic at the deadline? Asked by JoshuaDLandis. And I apologize. I have not been saying the people who have asked the question. The one, I want to go back just for a second so everybody gets their turn. The person who asked about Luis Arraez, that was asked by OUUNIOON on Twitter.
Union.
What is one move that will shake up at the deadline? That was asked by Dodgers fan page 1. And is this the year that Edwin Diaz becomes a top 3 closer? Asked by @DHills. And the Dansby Swanson one was asked by LWundy on Twitter. And then this one about the Padres was asked by JoshuaDLandis. So we just talked about the Padres a bunch. And the reason why I said that we got a little bit more news on Fernando Tatis Jr. is because the timetable was pushed back. Not good. Just continued to we got no information. The Padres apparently, and this is quote from the article, was that they're not happy. It's not a happy thing, but they're just not pleased with the way he's healed. Like, he's not healing as fast as they thought.
And he swings with so much force, man. Like, you don't want to rush that back. Yeah, he generates so much bat speed and so much torque and so much force. If his wrist is not 100%, like, he can mess that thing up again. So given where they're at, I'm okay with pushing the timetable back. But of course, that's extremely frustrating when, you want to keep rolling and you want to get back one of the most exciting and most productive players in the sport.
So what do you think about the Padres?
So
I think they're just a tough team. Like, what do you think could keep them? Like, it's such a tough question. What could keep them from a catastrophic collapse?
So actually, that's the funny thing, dude, is I actually already think they made the moves they needed to make to protect them from a catastrophic collapse. Like it's the pitching.
Yeah.
And I think that the pitching, I'm not saying that this means that they're a World Series contender right away. I do think that they have a lot of the pieces and they're a move or two away from putting themselves in that conversation. But I think this team is much more impervious to the absolute catastrophic collapse because they don't have those gaping holes in their rotation. One of those guys is going to step up and give you a quality start to get out of that, losing streak. I mean, just even to add a Sean Manaea, they would have killed for a Sean Manaea last year. And he's not even, nearly their best pitcher. Having Musgrove, just kind of up to the next level, having Gore looking, right again and looking like the rookie of the year favorite. Like they have done everything they've needed to do. I think on the pitching side of things. And ultimately, I think that's going to be enough to keep them from a catastrophic collapse. But as we mentioned, I think they need to either answer the outfield or the catching situation. And, that's kind of what I'm looking at moving forward. But the pitching looks great. Maybe add a bullpen arm, but everybody can always add a bullpen arm. But to answer the question, I think they've done everything they need to do to prevent the monster collapse. And that was bolster up the pitching.
And the reason they had a monster collapse was two of the 5 days of the week were being held by Jake Arrieta and Vince Velasquez.
Yeah, that's how you collapse. 101 right there.
That's how you collapse when 2 of the 5 games during the week are L's. Yeah. So you're already going to lose 40% of your games before you can. And then if a Joe Musgrove has a tough start, all right, now you're losing 60% of the games during the week. That's just too much. And it starts spiraling and getting out of control. That's the thing. Now they have Blake Snell and Mike Clevenger.
Exactly.
Not to even mention the pitchers you already named. They have Dinelson Lamet who can come back too. They have so many arms.
You hope Ryan Weathers figures it out in AAA. They're in such a different place than they were in last year. So I mean, yeah, I think they're okay in that regard.
And then when they get back Tatis, I mean, this team is going to be very, very, very exciting.
Yep.
Last question of the mailbag. What player has shocked you the most this year? For me, it was Luis Gonzalez as he's putting up good at bats and getting results. That was asked by Lil DJ 030 on Instagram. And we know he asked a lot of questions about Giants. So of course his big surprise is one of his Giants, but Luis Gonzalez has been fantastic. No doubt about it. That was a surprise for me, not crazy surprise because it's not like he's broken out. Now he's this incredible player, but he has been a very nice addition for the Giants. And he definitely makes them deeper all around when they needed a guy like Luis Gonzalez.
Oh, no, totally. I mean, that's a guy that was pretty much just let go. Yes. So anytime those guys perform, and it seems like the Giants find them more than anybody. And that's a great one. I think we have some guys that have floored us even more. And I got to start with William Contreras to stay on the Braves front. What William Contreras is doing for the Atlanta Braves right now has been wild because for little stretches there, they were struggling to get things going offensively. And then all of a sudden, your 24-year-old catching prospect, you move him from behind the dish and he rakes 292, 376, 674 slash line, 9 home runs in 101 plate appearances, Peter. I mean, this guy is a lot more. And as Clay Snowden wrote on justbaseball.com, a lot more than just Wilson Contreras' brother. Both the Contreras brothers are raking this year. And I don't know what it's going to look like defensively for Contreras behind the dish long-term, but he's proven to be a big league bat. No doubt about it.
So I have 3 things that really shock me, and we can keep going back and forth because I know you have another one too. And then I'll do my third to end it. My first one that I want to talk about, what's shocking to me is how bad Javier Baez is. We knew he wouldn't be elite, or at least that's what we projected him as. But did we think he would be the worst hitter of all that qualify in WRC plus? Did we really think that? No, he has been a shell. He can't hit anything. We said he is now 1 for his last 40. For his last 40, he's got no plan up there. Will he bounce back? Maybe. But did I expect now on June 15th, we're about, 60 games in, for him to be the actual worst hitter of all that qualify? I did not expect that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, like, I've never been that high on Javi Baez, but he ultimately will hit enough home runs and, steal enough bags and whatever to get you a respectable WRC plus. But he's the worst. Like, he's legitimately been horrible. You mentioned no plan. I mean, that's very clear. He's just hacking up there. And it's been really, really tough to watch. It really has, because he's one of those guys that when he is not going right, you almost want to shield your eyes. Like, you almost just don't even want to keep watching because it's so brutal. And that's what it's been. I don't even mean to pile on, but like, he's been that brutal. I'm going to stick with the Braves on this one again. And I got to go Kyle Wright, because Kyle Wright was downright terrible for the last several years. Every time he got up to the big leagues, he'd be decent in AAA and then get shelled at the big leagues, get sent back to AAA, be decent, get shelled in the big leagues. And I wrote something earlier in the year, kind of breaking down what Kyle Wright figured out on the mound on justbaseball.com. And you can check that out if you search Kyle Wright on our website. But I mean, I'm still shocked at what this guy's doing. To have the 5+ ERA in every stint, in his big league career, and then to do what he's doing this year, which is pitch to a 2.57 ERA. And you could be like, oh, is he lucky? No. 2.86 FIP. I mean, he's striking out guys more than he ever did. He looks incredible. And I mean, the Braves needed him in the worst way, and he's really come up big for them. I'm very floored at how sold I am on this performance too, is really what kind of stands out to me. Is one of the biggest and most drastic changes I've seen from a pitcher year to year.
Also, just before I finish up the Kyle Wright point, whenever you bag on the Marlins, while you're talking, they go nuclear. They're up 4-0 on the Phillies in the first inning, up 4-0.
Don't hold on. Let me guess. Who hit
it?
Yes. It did. Soler homer.
Let's see. It was
I can tell by your reaction. Was it fucking Avi Garcia?
Avi Garcia homered. Jesus Aguilar also homered.
I love Jesus Aguilar, but like, God, Avi Garcia homered. They're gonna put him in the cleanup spot tomorrow now.
I love it.
I just can only make noises at this point.
Seriously,
but I'll take it. I'll take it. They're swinging it. They needed that.
But just to finish with the Kyle Wright point, Kyle Wright basically just replaced elite Charlie Morton for them.
Yeah.
That's how I thought. That's how I kind of contextualized. Like, you got the best out of Charlie Morton. And as soon as he's starting to slow down, Kyle Wright.
Yep.
Bang. My next shocker is that German Marquez is one of the worst pitchers in baseball.
Yeah.
And he has a 6.09 ERA. So he actually has the second worst ERA in the entire sport. He's got a 1.51 whip. He's not striking anybody out either. So this is always a guy, when we look at the ERAs, he was 4.40 last year, he was in the 3s the year before. So I was never expecting him to be like a 2 ERA guy, especially pitching so much at Coors Field. But I did not expect that his fastball was going to be one of the worst pitches in baseball. I didn't expect that the slider would be terrible and that everything he throws in the zone gets throttled. 6.09 ERA. And you look at his Savant page, the only thing that's red is his spin on his fastball and his curveball. And actually, no, that's a lie. Fastball spin, he's in the 18th percentile. It's fastball velocity. So the only thing he's got is that on his third offering, he's got a decent amount of spin on that curveball. And then on the fastball, he's still throwing at 95. But against the fastball, opponents are hitting 382. And against that slider that's supposed to be nasty, guys are hitting 271 against the pitch. And that's like his best offering. This just shocked me. I wasn't expecting German Marquez to take a massive jump and become an ace, but I certainly wasn't expecting him to be possibly the worst pitcher in baseball this year for those that qualify.
Do you remember what we always used to say in the early days of the podcast, maybe even back when it was Project the Plate? It was like, if German Marquez didn't pitch at Coors, he'd be like a top 30 pitcher. We always used to say that, and I really believed it. But I mean, I don't know if you can say that anymore. I think everybody kind of thought that this guy is a super talented pitcher that's stuck in a bad environment and makes do because he was still really solid. But this is a joke what we've seen. I mean, he's getting pummeled. And I just don't know. It's not like he hit this age marker where he's 33. Like, he's still young. He's still on
27.
The right Yeah, I would say still on the right side of 30. Something went awry for him, and he just can't seem to find it. I'm with you. That is a shocking one for me too. I could see struggles, but not catastrophic struggles. Even no matter where you're playing, it's shocking.
Just absolutely like right now, I'm just going to the run value leaderboards because right now, like best pitches in baseball by run value, you have the Mackenzie Gore fastball, actually, like the Clay Holmes, fastball as well. But like when we look at worst pitches in baseball arm right now, Vladimir Gutierrez's four-seamer is still right there. Kyle Bradish is next. Yoan Adone. And then Herman Marquez's four-seam. Like it's worse than Chris Bubich's fastball. It's worse than guys like Carlos Hernandez. It's worse than the Dallas Keuchel cutter. Right now, by run value, Herman Marquez's fastball is the fourth worst pitch in baseball. That's shocking.
Yeah. For
shocking.
A guy that got plenty of swing and miss on that pitch through the years.
So now I have one more, but it's more of a small one. Do you just have a small one that kind of off the top of your head, you're just like, wow, this guy's doing this thing? Because I have one that I could give you to kind of give you some time to think.
Honestly, I'll talk about, I mean, it's early and I think he's going to be okay, but I've been very surprised by Trevor Rogers' struggles. With how good he looked last year. I've been, and he's pitching right now, and I know he's going to throw a no-hitter now as I'm talking about this. So maybe I'm just trying to help him out. But, his velo's been good. Like everything's been all right. And it's just been a little bit of inconsistency, but I actually just pulled up the Savant page. He's up to 97 tonight. So, maybe he's getting it going in the right direction. So I don't want to sound it like you said, small one. Small one is just, I'm surprised that he's struggling this year because he was so good last year, had his blip, and then finished strong. And usually I expect those guys to keep the momentum going, and he's hit that wall. So we'll see how he progresses, but it's been starting to get to a larger sample size of struggles here. And that was pretty surprising to me because he was dynamite last year.
Crazy surprising to me. And my last one to just wrap up with this episode of the Mailbag, I'm pretty shocked that Julio Rodriguez leads the league in stolen bases. Yeah, I'm pretty shocked by that. He's at 17 last. So in the 2020, I liked seeing what the leaderboards were in the 2020, because we're at the 60 game mark. So it's a good evaluator of kind of where we're at. Like Alberto Mondesi had 24 at the time at the end of the 60 game, but the next best was 16. So that means without Alberto Mondesi, who's just he
was a stolen base fiend.
He's a fiend and he barely plays anymore. He's just a tough person to figure out. But Julio Rodriguez, without him, would have led the league in stolen bases as well at the 60 game mark in 2020. 17 stolen bases. He has more than Mateo. He's got more than Bader. Leads all of baseball. That was shocking to me.
So what's crazy, I'm glad you brought that one up. I had Jeff Ponce from Baseball America, one of my favorite writers in the prospect world, on the call up after Baseball America just put out their top 100 update. And I asked him off the cuff, I was like, how are we all so clueless as to how fast Julio Rodriguez was? And he said some of it was because, he had kind of gone from the Olympics to other spots, and people just didn't get enough looks at him. But I'm like, you should be able to tell that this guy was this fast. And the other point that he brought up, and he said, it's more so this, he worked his ass off to get faster in the off season. And I didn't know that. How would any of us know that? And apparently he worked really hard on just adding strength, but not like bulky, slow you down strength, and being quicker, and worked on his footwork and worked on his speed. And when you're that freaky, stuff like that can really make a difference. And he just made himself faster. That is how insane Julio Rodriguez is. He grinded his ass off and made himself faster. That's what Jeff said that he had heard from team officials and things like that. He's Baseball America's the most plugged in with teams. And I thought that was a really interesting tidbit. Like, oh yeah, maybe he just worked his butt off and gained 2 steps. Most guys can't do that, but Julio Rodriguez is not most guys. I agree. That's one of the biggest shocks of the year too.
Question to end it. I know I keep saying to end it, but I think this is an interesting one. Is Julio Rodriguez the next Ronald Acuna Jr.? That's what it feels like to me.
There's a lot of similarities there.
Crazy
I mean, in terms of the power, stolen bases. Yeah. I think there's a lot there. And the thing is though, if you're at that level, it's almost like you're the first Julio Rodriguez. Yep. But I would say that if you could give a comp, now that he has that speed, I think that's the closest comp. Yes.
And we'll end it with that. So click the link in our episode description, download the Loop app, you get a free $20, and you get to play along with us all season long. Also, Prize Picks, that link is in the episode description as well. Follow the Twitter, like I said, at JustBB Media. We have our guy Elijah, one of our new guys we added on, putting out highlights, as well as our guy Ethan putting out a ton of highlights. And then go check out all these different articles at justbaseball.com. If you're into fantasy, check out Not Gambling Advice. That's my fantasy baseball and gambling podcast. We just came out with some hot topics for fantasy baseball. So if you want to listen to that after you've listened to this one, or go check out Aram's Prospect Pod. So whatever you're into prospects, go let's check out Aram. You're more into fantasy, go check out us. But regardless, all of it is going to be on justbaseball.com. And that's it. Do you have anything else?
I was to say, why not both?
Why not both? So with that, thank you, everybody.